Okay, guys, welcome to our presentation. Go ahead and grab some food. And if you guys don't mind getting together for a picture, we might use this for social media. And just a reminder to everyone, if you have not registered yet or RSVP, go ahead and go to this link, picmonic.com/preso. That way you can be entered in for the raffle that we're going to do at the end of the presentation. It's a free 1-year subscription to Picmonic. Also, with the email that you register with, we're going to send a special discount that lasts for 24 hours, as well as some other tools that'll help with PA school. So as you guys are getting food, if I could get 10 volunteers over, we're going to take a short test. Don't worry, it's not graded. And here I'm going to divide them up into two groups of 5. And the first group of 5, I'm going to tell them to memorize as many of these objects as they can. And the second group of 5, I'm going to tell them to do the same thing, but specifically to use a story in their head that incorporates each of these objects. And I'm going to tell the groups, give these groups the directions separately. And then I'm going to give them 1 minute to do it while everyone's getting food. I'll have them grade their own, and I'll use those numbers later in the presentation. All right, so after everyone's gotten their food, we've gotten a group picture, we will get started. So, guys, my name is Joe Hwang. I am in the class above you, and just wanted to take some time today to talk to you a little bit about some tools that have been very helpful for me in PA school. So first of all, how many of you are already at this stage? I know we're 3 weeks in to PA school, but yeah, so I think I experienced this the night before our first pharmacology test. But I'm here to tell you it's going to be okay. You can do it. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about how I went from this to this. We had time in the midst of the busyness of school to prepare for Challenge Bowl and the volleyball tournament coming up in the summer. And not only to prepare for it, but to completely dominate our competition. So we also had some sick arm tats for sure. So PA school, it is information overload, and there's a lot of tricks for memorizing and learning things. And one of these I've used before is called concept mapping. Is anybody familiar with this or use something similar to this? Yeah, I see a couple hands. So what are some other tools that you've used in school so far to help you learn things? Okay, mnemonics, stories, songs. Great. And a lot of times as you're writing things down, you can actually remember what part of the page your notes are on. It could be on the left side, third column down. But the question is, how do we keep this up now that we have doubled or tripled even what we had to learn in undergrad? And so that's what we're going to talk about today, basically how to dominate PA school. So I personally, I've really only used 2 consistent tools to supplement my studying. And one of those is Picmonic. The other is a flashcard system called Anki. And both of these have been super helpful in terms of efficiency and maximizing memory for me. So Picmonic exists to help students learn more quickly and improve long-term memory by using what they call audio-visual tools. And these are based on the board's blueprint, specifically 2 PAs, so that we can focus on high-yield information using resources that are already created for us. So today we're going to talk a little bit about memory, and then I'm going to go into how Picmonic actually works and go into some of the features that you'll have. So we're going to take a quick 30 seconds just to do this exercise all together. So I'm going to give you 30 seconds to memorize this list of information, however you want to do it. Okay, and 30 seconds has gone by. So you're all smart, and I imagine you would probably be able to remember most of these for at least the next 20 minutes. And if you're familiar with medications and indications, mechanism action, all that stuff, you might be able to remember it even tomorrow. But how about a week or a month or when you're treating a patient in a few years? Will you be able to remember this information? And according to this guy named Ebbinghaus, who termed the forgetting curve, uh, you won't remember that information. As soon as we begin to learn something, um, we also begin to forget it. And that's why cramming doesn't work. You might remember it short term, but that information is gone quickly. Now, Mercer's program does an incredible job with repetition. So, organ systems are generally covered simultaneously in multiple classes and then repeated from semester to semester. So, you're getting repeated exposure to the same things. Case studies, practicals, and exams, these are all there to help reinforce that material and to combat this forgetting curve. Now, Picmonic is just another tool, but it's a powerful tool that I've gotten to use to supplement what Mercer's program has provided to allow me to remember things more efficiently, recall things more quickly, which is crucial for like a challenge bowl trivia type situation, and to be able to remember these things long term. And so we'll talk a little bit about what memory is in terms of encoding, storage, and retrieval. So let's start with encoding. At the basic level, we experience new events or sensations, and our brain rewires itself in order to store those new experiences into memory. And so we're constantly taking in new information through the world around us, primarily through our senses. And lasting memories are often associated with these heightened senses. That's why certain songs and smells and pictures can so quickly bring us back to a past experience. And even being in a familiar place can bring up memories. There's this thing called the dual coding theory that basically says when two senses are used in conjunction, it creates a stronger memory. So, for example, if you not only see information, like as in reading it, but you also hear it at the same time, you're going to dramatically increase your ability to remember it. There's another thing called the picture superiority effect, which states that pictures help us to remember things a lot better than text. And it's because text oftentimes is boring and hard to decode, and pictures are stimulating and powerful. So that's why movie scenes and lines are so memorable. Now, if you're reading a good book, you should be, whether consciously or unconsciously, playing a film in your head. And we can use this to our advantage if we take the information we need to remember and attach it to a picture that we can use, which is called a memory anchor. Now, we remember pictures better than words, but there's certain pictures that we remember best. So the von Restorff effect says that we remember things that are weird, that are unique, that stand out. So if you have four viruses and one of them is different from the others, you're more likely to remember the one that's different. That kind of ties into the humor effect. We remember things that are funny, that are out of place. So in this picture, we have a flower queen, a polar bear with two heads, and some men in tights. And these are associated with fluoroquinolones, which is a drug class, bipolar disease, and meningitis. The second part of forming a memory, after we've encoded the information through our senses, is storage. So, how do we use this in learning and studying? Well, one of those ways is through mnemonics, and I'm sure plenty of you have used these before. So, can someone give me an example of a fun mnemonic that you've used before? Okay, great. Acronyms, Roji Biv, one that everyone's familiar with. Of course, the colors of the rainbow. Now, when we start getting into medical mnemonics, they're great, but how often do you start to forget what each letter stood for? Um, so maybe we need to take this one step further to a deeper level of encoding. There's something called phonetic associations that takes consonant sounds of a word that you want to remember and turning it into something that you already know. Um, so, for example, you take a medical fact and associate it with a character. Albuterol. You break these consonants down, and it might be broken down into, say, ab, butter, troll. And so you can take what you already know and come up with a picture. Here's an example. You've taken text and turned it into a picture. Now that we have a visual representation, we now can have a memory anchor that we can use to recall information. Another powerful tool that connects memory anchors is one called linking. So linking, it plays off of a sequence memory, and it's how we can remember a list of things instead of just isolated facts in and of themselves. So let's say you needed to remember that albuterol causes angina, represented by the angel. You can now have these two characters linked or interacting with each other to remember the information. We can take this even further. Memory palace. So I was actually first introduced to this before I started PA school, when I took a speed reading and memory retention class online. And it was here that I actually found out they have competitions where these memory champions compete, and they just memorize an insane amount of information. Like they'll be given 3 decks of cards and like 30 seconds or a minute, and they'll remember the entire sequence of those 3 decks of cards, numbers, and suits. Or they'll be given multiple credit cards, and they can just memorize, rattle off these numbers. And the way they do that, all of them use this thing called a memory palace. And basically, here's how this works. They take a place that's familiar to them, like their house or their school, or maybe a place, the city that they grew up. And in their imagination, they create as much detail as possible. And when they want to remember something, they start placing those objects in specific areas of that memory palace that they've created, be it their home or their apartment or the school that they went to growing up. And the reason this works is because we are all very familiar with the details of this location, down to each room, to each desk, to each cabinet, to each drawer. And then we're creating associations and in turn forming strong memories. So we're going to practice building one together. And so I'm going to ask you all to close your eyes, and I'm going to tell you a story, and it's going to be kind of strange, but stick with me. Okay, so everybody close your eyes. All right. Imagine yourself going back home to your apartment after a long day at PA school, and all you want to do is shower and relax. So you go towards your bathroom door, and it's closed. But just as you put your hand on the handle, behind the door you hear what sounds like a concert. So you reach for the door, and as you open it, your senses are overloaded with music and lights. And as your eyes begin to adjust, you find that your bathroom has actually been turned into the front row of a concert, and the newest heartthrob just got on stage right in the middle of your tub. And it's a troll. And when he lifts his shirt up, he has a ripped 6-pack of butter, dripping, glistening, yellow butter abs. And he grabs the mic and he's like, "Ah, but a troll." And then all of a sudden, the backup singer, a blue dragon beta fish, spins up high out of the water, and he's wearing a pink tutu, and he's holding onto this tiny ruler, and he's singing back up into it like, "Ah, but a troll flow." And this dragon beta fish lifts the troll high up on his shoulders. Right then, the DJ makes his entrance on a freaking spaceship, rising right out of your shower drain, bringing the beat. Who's this DJ? It's Broccoli. Aw, snap. DJ Broccoli Spaceship. And he's come to drop the bass. His entrance always causes so much anxiety, he makes sure to bring an inhaler to calm the crowd. And the wind from the inhaler causes the troll's hair to go wild. And when the angel next to you sees this, her heart starts going crazy. She clutches her chest, heart pounding, reaching out for the ab butter troll. Then the troll pulls out an ace of hearts and a giant tack and tacks the heart card right to her chest. Okay. I know that was a little strange, but you can go ahead and open your eyes. We basically just created a memory palace with a variety of characters. And so in your head, it might look something like this. You walk into your bathroom. There's a troll with abs of butter standing. And do you remember what comes up next as his backup singer? Yeah, that's right. blue dragon beta fish. He's got a tutu on. He's singing into a ruler. All right. And what happens next? What comes out of that drain? Yep, the DJ. Uh huh. And what's he riding on? Yep, a spaceship. And he's brought something with him because of all the anxiety in the crowd. That's right. An inhaler, blowing the hair. And then we have one final character who is, yep, an angel. Uh huh. And she's reaching out for the troll. And what does the troll do to her? That's right. Yep. Ace of hearts right onto her chest. Great. And so each of these characters represents something that we need to remember. They're weird and bizarre, but they're interacting, and their names are based on phonetic associations. Now, you can do this by yourself, and a lot of people in my class they're incredible at making up stories for remembering things. Picmonic is just another tool that really has saved me a lot of time because now I don't have to create these stories or these characters. They've done all the hard work ahead of time, and now I can utilize these characters and have a base and a foundation for continuing to build off of that if I need to. So a couple other things I wanted to point out is chunking and grouping. So grouping associated material together. If you look closely at this image, the characters are grouped together for a reason. So the Abbutter troll sitting on top of the blue dragon beta fish, that's albuterol, and the dragon beta fish stands for um, a beta agonist. And he's got a short ruler because it's a short acting beta 2 agonist, the 2 that's wearing it. So that's the medication and the mechanism action. If you look over on the side of the screen with the DJ Broccoli spaceship, Broccoli spaceship is for bronchospasm, and asthma is for asthma inhalers. So those are the indications where you would use albuterol. Somebody that has asthma, somebody that has bronchospasm. And then on the right side of the screen with the angel and the ace of hearts, that represents the adverse effects of albuterol. So angel for angina, and then the TAC heart card for tachycardia. So each of the Picmonics, they're created so that the characters are set in a story and they're all interacting with each other. And they have basically turned text into memorable characters like these. So as you can see, we saw here's Fever Beaver. I think earlier we saw penicillin becoming pencil villain. There's a hippo with a blood pressure cup for hypotension. Yeah, there's Pennsylvanian. Warfarin turns into Warfairy. And it's goofy, but that's why it works. Again, the humor effect. So this framework that they create, then we can begin to build conceptual understanding on top of it. I can build my own memory palaces and link and group characters together as I'm studying. So once we've learned it, how do we go about ensuring that we can recall or retrieve that information, say, on a test, or even more importantly, at a patient's bedside when their health or life is on the line? So repetition and review through active recall is critical. And this is different from passive recall in that we actually have to work to retrieve that information. So you've all done this before. You've all taken practice tests. You've done flashcards. You've talked it out with other people. And that all stimulates active recall, the active review. And just an aside here, for anatomy lab, I highly recommend getting together with 2 or 3 people and taking turns after you've learned the material on your own, taking turns quizzing each other by pointing to different structures, nerves, vessels, etc., and asking each other what they are. Again, that's active recall. That's going to really help you on the test. And just a little hint, the identification practical is not limited to the parts of the models that have numbers or letters on them. So as you're quizzing each other, you can actually make sure you take the time to point to things that aren't labeled. Okay. So if you have picture mnemonics, you're more likely to recall information quickly, and you're more able to retain that information for longer periods of time than rather just reading and highlighting text. So here's another graphic representation of what it looks like when you review something once. It delays your time to forgetting, but only temporary. The more you repeat something, the less likely you are to forget it, but you could review the information every day to stay at close to 100% retention, but that isn't practical, and it actually isn't even necessary. So spaced repetition, this is something I use every single day. The more something is reviewed, the less often you need to study it to retain it. Okay, I'm going to say that one more time. The more something is reviewed, the less often you need to study it to retain it. So basically, you're studying things that you know well far less often than the things that you don't know as well. And what's great about some of these flashcard systems, I know Anki does it, I think Quizlet does it, Picmonic has it built in, is there's algorithms built in so that the more you get something right, the less often you have to review it. And the more you miss something, the more frequently it comes up. Okay, time for a quick quiz. So earlier we talked about chromalin. Um, does anyone remember what drug class chromalin is in? Okay, mast cell stabilizer, good. How about the indications? I listed the first letter of each to try to help you out, maybe stimulate some side effects or considerations. So if we had audiovisual um, mnemonics, linking, memory palaces, again, not only is short-term memory improved, but long-term memory retention um, is drastically improved as well. And so here's another example of what we just covered. Here you can see chromalin represented by a chromarlin. The drug class is a mast cell stabilizer, so that's here. Indications include asthma prophylaxis, so the asthma inhaler with the purple axis, bronchial inflammation, the broccoli inflamed, and allergic rhinitis, which is the alligator with the allergies and the running nose coming out of it. Side effects here include bronchospasm, again, broccoli spaceship. So you can see these characters begin to show up in multiple Picmonics so that you're familiar with them. You can quickly remember what they stand for. Coughing coffee pot, as cough is a side effect of chromalin. And then this broken clock here, it's fixed at a certain time. It's fixed schedule administration, so this medication has to be given consistently at the same time each day. So Picmonic's methodology we've talked about today includes the audiovisual learning. We talked about dual coding theory, how hearing and seeing something using multiple senses really heightens memory. We talked about memory palaces, linking, and grouping. Picmonic also has quizzes associated with every single Picmonic and every single fact which is linked to a character, so that you can practice active recall that way. And they have a algorithm built in for spaced repetition for those quizzes, should you choose to use it. There was a RB review done as they were building this platform, and it was done at Midwestern among medical students. And basically, what they did was they divided them into two groups. One was given traditionally text to study from, and the other was given audio visual learning resources. And basically, they tested them at baseline, they tested them at 1 week, and they tested them at 1 month, I believe. And the outcomes were that the Picmonic group, who received the audiovisual tools, had a 50% increase in exam scores after 1 week, and then over 300% increase in long-term retention of high-yield information. So earlier today, while we were getting food, I had those 10 volunteers come up, 5 who I told to just memorize 25 pictures on the screen. The other 5, I told them to create a story in their head associating these pictures together. And what we saw was that the group that created stories that utilized Memory Palace in that sense and linking did better than the group who just tried to memorize the pictures, just wrote memorization. And I'm sure if I asked those same people right now to write down those objects, I'm confident that the group who used the Memory Palace technique would score higher. Again, just because our brains work that way. So that's a little bit about memory. I'm going to go into how Picmonic actually works. So